Okay, so we've had a ton of gameplay details over the last couple of days after everybody had gotten the chance to get their hands on with Marvel Spider-Man 2. But you see, with our opportunity to play the game and considering that we all pretty much got a good at least 2 hours with the game, we did get to see a chunk of the story. Now, we didn't get to play the beginning, middle, and end, but we got to see a set piece. We got to see a lengthy sequence. And on top of that, there's some interviews out there regarding some characters that we now know, unfortunately, are not going to show up in Marvel Spider-Man 2. We're talking about all of that and as well confirmation of how long Marvel Spider-Man 2 is going to be in today's video. And let's start off with some relatively big news. So The Gamer wrote an article as they had the chance to interview some members over at Insomniac Games after getting their hands on with Spider-Man 2. They got to interview John Paquette, and well, throughout the interview at one point they asked him specifically about Gwen Stacy. And you may remember a long while back when Spider-Man PS4 released, Insomniac Games tweeted out when somebody mentioned Gwen Stacy saying, hey, who said Gwen is dead in our universe? And since then, the whole concept of Spider-Gwen and just Gwen Stacy as a character has really skyrocketed in popularity within Spider-Man media. I mean, there's even video out there of when Gwen Stacy hit the like button on this video. So people were wondering, is there a chance that Gwen Stacy could show up within the Marvel Spider-Man universe? And well, is there a chance that she could become Spider-Gwen? And here's the answer that John Paquette had provided to The Gamer. You can read their full article linked in the description box below, but he said here, you know what? We entertain the idea of all characters all the time. All of us at the studio are fans of Marvel, and so one of the great things about Insomniac is that we love to get ideas from everybody on the team, so we're always getting ideas. But we also need to stay focused on what is the story that we're trying to tell, and Gwen isn't part of that story that we're trying to tell, unfortunately. But who knows? So yeah, from what it sounds like here, John Paquette is mentioning that Gwen Stacy is not going to be showing up in Marvel Spider-Man 2 in any way, shape, or form, but he's still leaving the door open. The Gamer also wrote here, although it seems like Gwen Stacy is going to be missing out on this Spider-Man, it does seem like Paquette and the team have at least got the idea in consideration and might end up including her in a future game. For now, though, it's probably best to lower your expectations and think of Spider-Man 2 as a double feature of Miles and Peter. And yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Marvel Spider-Man 2 is headlining Miles and Peter as our Spider-Man. But, don't lose all hope entirely. Who knows if they're going to do a DLC expansion in the future, or of course, when an inevitable Marvel Spider-Man 3 rolls around, maybe we'll see Gwen introduced in that game. The next thing that I want to talk about is actually really huge news for the story and as well the symbiote in Marvel Spider-Man 2. If you don't want to know anything about this game's story, mild spoilers ahead. You have been warned. But hey, if you're leaving, just make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out and turn on those notifications if you haven't already. Lots of Spider-Man 2 content coming your way. Okay, so when we got to play the game, there was a sequence where we had to try and track down the lizard. Part of that, of course, is going to lead you into the sewers. And at one point, when you're in the sewers, you find that there's this underground Oscorp lab that seemingly Curt Connors has had set up. And as pointed out by my fellow content creator covering Marvel Spider-Man 2, Blitzwinger, he noticed that there's a scene where you see a meteorite, or at least a shard of it is brought to your attention. And what's very interesting about this scene is that the symbiote, of course, is attracted to this. It starts even peeling off of Peter's body and starts reaching out to that shard of the meteorite. And although I didn't notice it, maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention, Blitzwinger mentioned that the actual meteorite, the comet itself, has that symbiote swirl that comes from the more recent runs from Donny Cates, Absolute Carnage and all the Venom stuff that he's been doing with Null. So this could be either just an Easter egg that, yes, that is the origin of the symbiotes, that Null exists, there is a symbiote god, or maybe this is a potential setup for an end game with the symbiotes where we might see Null. And I doubt that that's going to happen in Marvel Spider-Man 2. If that's the case, I think it's more likely that this is just an Easter egg and that, well, the symbiote's origin within the Insomniac Games universe is a more recent one. But we've thrown around the idea that maybe Insomniac Games could make a Venom game, and how cool would it be if we saw Null show up in that? And if it was just all out like symbiotes, like the war of the symbiotes, that would be crazy. The whole storyline with Null, just the more recent runs in Marvel Comics that Donny Cates has been the one to helm, has been received very well. People have loved those comics. And Insomniac has mentioned in past interviews that they looked at stuff that Donny Cates has done for Venom. So it makes sense that maybe they thought that was cool. The whole thing with Null, the Lord of the Symbiotes, that they wanted to implement that idea within their universe. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the game and actually playing through this part again just to see if that swirl is actually there. Not to discredit Blitzwinger, I trust what he saw, I want to see it for myself. And then finally, a ton of people have been asking me since I got my hands on with Marvel Spider-Man 2 if I know the length of the game. And I honestly didn't think we were going to get the answer to this question because first of all, I didn't know. And second of all, I just thought that this would be information that maybe would be provided to us closer to the release or just when we play it. But VG247 did an interview with Ryan Smith, who works over at Insomniac, and he revealed the details. And there's some controversy around this, but you know what? I'm going to go into a little bit of a rant mode. But first, let me just go over the quote here from Ryan Smith. He says here in their article, Spider-Man 2 is in the same ballpark as the first game in terms of overall playtime. And we really thought about how to make each of the moments like the lizard fight that you played, a little more epic or a little deeper or a little more story integrated. We don't want this to be an 80 to 100 hour game. That's not where we want to be. We want to tell amazing stories the best we can. We want to make every mission really, really memorable. That's our goal, rather than going super broad. And for those who don't know, the first Marvel Spider-Man game clocks in at around 17 hours on average for completion and 35 hours plus if you're going for the 100%. And so some people started to get really upset that this game is not going to be like 10,000 hours, that they weren't going to have us playing this until we tell our grandkids about it. But I'll be honest, this is great news for me. Just a tight 17-hour story, doesn't overstay its welcome, has some big set pieces, some great boss battles, hopefully improves on all the things that we might have nitpicked about with the last game. That's what I'm looking for. And that's what we all should be looking for. It's not an RPG. It shouldn't be 40 hours, man. The first Marvel Spider-Man is pretty airtight in its runtime. In terms of pacing, the only thing I had a problem with, the only thing that really slows things down to a halt, were those stealth missions with either Miles or MJ. So if we sort of trim the fat here in Marvel Spider-Man 2, if we get rid of those stealth sequences or at least make them a little more engaging, then 17 hours is well spent. And plus, you're all gonna want to get that platinum. You're all gonna want to unlock as many alternate suits as possible. I'm sure everybody here is gonna have a new game plus run. You're gonna spend tons of hours on this game. And coming from somebody who's gotten to play the game, trust me when I say you are going to spend a countless amount of hours just free roaming around the city. Those web wings are just an unbelievable amount of fun. Seriously, once you start playing, you don't want to put the controller down. And half the time, you're just gonna make sure you take the scenic route when you want to go to your next objective, so that you can use those web wings to the fullest, so that you can swing around, see all the new animations, and try out all the new air tricks. There's so much fun to be had here. So don't worry that Marvel Spider-Man 2 is not going to be as long as the first game. If we're ripping out those stealth sequences, that means more time for big set pieces, more action. Obviously, it would be cool if it was like a 60-hour experience and every hour of that is just perfection, but that's an unrealistic expectation to set. You know why? Because Insomniac Games likes to take care of their employees and their developers and not have them work countless hours on end. They like a healthy work environment where we also get really entertaining games. So I think, honestly, we should be praising that more than anything else. And with that being said, let me now kick it to you guys. Sound off with your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Gwen Stacy not appearing in Marvel Spider-Man 2? And also, what do you think about them potentially setting up or at least having Easter eggs towards Null? Lastly, I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below about the length of Marvel Spider-Man 2's story. Of course, if you enjoyed today's video, hit that thumbs up button. I've been Caboose, and I'll see you guys later.